Hello, my name is Kayla and welcome to Tips and Tricks Tuesday, where I'll be showing you all of the latest tips and tricks in PVFarm. So today we're going to talk about terrain following trackers. You may have noticed that the civil panel is looking a little different. So if I open my civil panel under my racking placement, I now see terrain following limits as a toggle, where if I'm placing rigid trackers, I can simply leave this toggled off and continue on. However, if I want to use terrain following, I'm going to toggle it on. Now I have two options. I have global undulation limits. This means that anything that is selected when I'm generating, so in this case, I have all boundaries selected, so they will all be set at these limits where you're setting your bending at each bay and your cumulative per wing, and that will be applied to every pile and every tracker with those limits. However, we also have the option to use project asset limits. And you're going to notice that this is not an editable field. It's just simply giving me inputs. So the reason for that is now this is going to live in the tracker itself. So let's go over to our project assets. And I'm going to open up my piles and leading edge menu for this single axis tracker. So I come to the bottom where my piles are. You see that we have pile types, pile profiles, and undulation. Undulation is where we're going to go today. We see this set undulation limits, bending at each bay, and cumulative per wing in either percentage or degrees, and we can apply that to every one of that tracker type. The reason this is useful is if you have a layout where you have two different types of trackers and one has a certain limit and the other has a different limit concerning terrain following, you can have them both being placed whatever is according to their limits. You'll also notice that there is another toggle down at the bottom that is currently toggled off. It says set bending limit at each bay per pile type. So let's go ahead and toggle that on. So what we're seeing here is that we can set the limit within degrees or percentage of each individual pile type for this tracker. So we're seeing every pile type that is available to us in this tracker. And of course, if you have more that you want to use, you can come right here and change that out. But let's say, for example, all of my other piles can be 1.5%, but maybe my motor piles are more restricted. So I'm going to come right here to my SMP or standard motor pier, and I'm going to change that from 1.5 to, let's just say 1. I'll also come with the heavy motor pier and I'll do the same thing. So just like any other change that we do to our project assets, I'm going to apply these changes to my objects. It's now applied these to each individual tracker of this type. And so now when I come back to my civil panel and I use my project assets, you see that this has now changed to a range. It's now saying it's between 1 and 1.5 because it's applying different percentages to different piles. So now if I run update on my placement, it's going to adjust those different piles according to the limits that I have set. Okay, now that it's generated, I can focus in on one tracker and I can see how terrain adjusted the certain piles are, like right here, whereas my motor pile is going to be much more restricted in how much it can bend. So using this, you're going to be able to really drill down on your exact pile placements and that exact bending in your torque tube. However, if this is beyond what your typical scope of work would be, or if this is a little too detailed, we can always just pop right back to our global undulation limits and just put in a set bend at each bay and a cumulative per wing. I hope this helped, and I'll talk to you next week.